So it did take about 3 weeks to get, but as you can see, we just got a brand new set of EVO bolt-on rock sliders, and specifically for our 392 Jeep JL Wrangler. I do need to note that we did get them with the optional light kit that EVO offers, but not with the decorative step plate, and we also opted to have them shipped to us in bare steel so that we could have them powder coated at a local shop. Now, for the purposes of this video, I have already removed the factory Rubicon rocker guards that we had on our 392, and mainly because not everybody will have them, and let's be honest, there's really nothing to it. All you need to do is remove the 6 nuts that are attached to the back side of the pinch seam using a 10mm socket, and the 3 bolts securing to the bottom of the Jeep, and that'll require a 13mm socket. And that's all there is to it. With that, everything comes right off. Anyway, as you can see here, I've gone ahead and applied some flat black vinyl to the pinch seam, and mainly to help hide things and give it a cleaner look once everything is said and done. Now, to get things started, the first thing I'm going to need to do is grind off the flared edges off the middle body mount, and I'll be using a flap disc on a grinder to do that. That should do it. All right, from here, now we need to remove the bolt securing the transmission skid bar and the transfer case skid plate to the frame rails. And for that, I'll be using an 18mm socket. Now for the fun part. As you can see, I need to get the rock slider mounts slipped in between the skid bars and the frame rails. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and secure the rocker guard to the frame rail using the factory bolts, but I'm only going to put it on snug tight for now. We're going to need a little extra wiggle room for everything else. While it may not be needed, the extra wiggle room should help me to get these guys installed. This is a 7/16 inch bolt, and this is a nut plate, both provided by EVO. And to get the bolt installed, I'll be using a 5/8 inch socket, and these needle nose pliers should help me to hang on to this nut plate while I fish it into the frame rail and secure it in place. Okay, now it's time to tighten up all the bolts, and I'm going to start with the factory ones. All right, now it's time to mark up some holes that we need to drill on the frame rails. And for that, I'll be using a Sharpie. And the first of which is gonna be on this front body mount. So I'm gonna take my Sharpie and stick it through the large hole on the forward arm of the rock slider. And then we're gonna go ahead and mark the hole. And then we're gonna come over to the front side of it and locate this hole on the frame rail. And then we're gonna swing around and mark the front side of the middle body mount. Once again, there's a large hole on the middle arm. We're gonna go take the Sharpie through and then mark the hole. And last but not least, we're gonna mark the back side of the middle body mount. And again, sticking our Sharpie through this large hole on the middle arm and then marking it. All right. Unfortunately, in order to drill out all these holes, the rock slider will need to be removed. Before I drill any holes, the first thing I like to do is mark all the centers of the holes with a center punch. Doing this simple step will help to keep the drill bit from drifting. Now it's time to drill some holes. And being that they need to be 1/2 inch in size, it is always a good idea to start off with a smaller bit first to make pilot holes. However, I prefer to use a step bit, or what some people refer to as a unibit, and mainly because they do the same job in a single step, and in my opinion, they do a better job of making cleaner holes. I should note that it is always helpful to use a little cutting oil on your drill bit, as it'll help it make it easier to drill through steel. All right, before I reinstall the rocker guards, I'm gonna hit all the bare metal with some frame paint. But even before that, I'm gonna clean up all the cutting oil using some brake clean, but rubbing alcohol will probably work as well. All right, while we let that dry, there is one other thing I want to do before we reinstall the rock slider. As I mentioned earlier, we got our rock sliders with the optional light kit, and that's what I'm going to install now. So to do that, I'm going to grab one of the 2 brackets, make sure I'm installing it correctly. And as you can see, the holes line up and the thicker side is protruding from the end. On the back side, it's flush, so I know that this is the correct piece. I'm gonna take these nut clips and we're gonna press them on, making sure that the barrel end points toward the inside. Okay, and then we're gonna take one of these lights and then we're gonna feed the wires through this hole right here. And then take the provided bolts, slip them through the hole, add washers, and the nuts. And then using an 8mm wrench and a 3mm Allen wrench, I'm going to go ahead and secure this in place. Do the same on this other side. Now, need to make sure that this wire gets fed through the bottom corner. And we're gonna try to get these things installed. There we go, a little bit better. Okay, now we can go ahead and use the provided button head bolts to secure it in place. So I'm just gonna loosely thread these in for now. And using a 4mm Allen wrench, I can go ahead and start securing them in place. Just a little loose for now. Okay, let me turn this over. All right, on to the other side. All right, now we can reinstall it. On the home stretch now. All right, now it's time to install the bolts that we just drilled a whole bunch of holes for. Of course, EVO does provide all the bolts, nuts, and washers to make this possible. And the first one we're going to install is this 7/16" bolt to secure the rock slider arm to the front body mount. Now, even though they do provide pinch nuts, they do recommend that you use a medium thread locker, like a blue Loctite. And so I'm going to apply some of that to the threads now. And then I'm going to slip this through the hole in the body mount. Grab another washer and the pinch nut and thread it on. And then we're going to use an 11/16" wrench for the pinch nut, and again use a 5/8" socket to secure the bolt in place. So for the hole that we drilled in the frame rail, we're going to take another one of these nut plates. And again, a 7/16" bolt. I'm gonna slide this guy through this large hole and then thread it in. Okay, then using a 5/8" socket, we're gonna go ahead and tighten that in place now. Okay, next. Once again, we're going to put some blue Loctite on the threads. I'm going to go ahead and get ready for the next one too. Take this, slip it through the body mount, take a washer and pinch nut. Again, using our 11/16" wrench, we're going to hold the pinch nut in place and then secure it in place with the 5/8" socket. Okay, Gonna repeat the process on the last one now. Okay. All right, last but not least, need to torque all the bolts. And so the factory frame bolts, those will need to be tightened to 55 foot-pounds of torque. 55. And for the 7/16 inch bolts that EVO provided, those will need to be tightened to 52 foot-pounds of torque. 52. That's one. So for these bolts on the body mounts, to make things easier, I'm going to be coming to the pinch nuts from the inside. So I'll be using an 11/16 inch socket for that and a 5/8 inch wrench to hold the bolt in place. All right. Awesome. Now, time for the other side. As you can see, I had to remove a couple more bolts on the gas tank skid plate, as well as loosen one here toward the back and one here on the cross member, just to give me a little bit more space to slide in the rock slider. And it looks like I might need to loosen up this transmission skid bar just a bit there too, so I get a little space here as well. All right, just need to torque everything on and we'll be done. Now that is a rocker guard I know can get the job done. Now, I do still need to wire up the lights, but that would be no different than a rock light install. And we've got a video on that. And you can watch it now by clicking on the link in the description below. I hope that you found this video to be helpful, and if you haven't done so already, Cindy and I would love for you to join us on our online community at wayalife.com. Thanks for watching.